say. Merfolk's Secret Keeper has given this deck a new layer of consistency because it is both sort of a Tome Scour effect that helps you fill your graveyard in order to enable Vengevines, Prized Amalgams, and so on. But then it's also a creature that is going to trigger your Vengevines in the graveyard. So a lot of what he's doing here is just trying to flip as much of his library into the graveyard as possible on the back of Supplier, Crab, Secret Keeper, Glimpse the Unthinkable, and going as far as Memory Sluice. And then just having as many payoffs to that as he can find. Once Upon a Time is another thing in this deck that's just pretty great, and then it can even grab Tome Scour. Not literal Tome Scour, but Merfolk's Secret Keeper.
Just say one of Once Upon a Time. I like it, trying it out.
And the draw to this is a lot of times the graveyard decks like Traditional Dredge can suffer against big mana just because of how long it takes them to get off the ground. But this deck with Vengevine, it just attacks.
And I actually like it in this matchup because when you think about I've always felt like the fact that the graveyard decks have bad matchups against big mana was always something that shouldn't be true, but was incidental. You know, Amulet had main deck Bazooka Bog, just randomly, and then Valakut would have main deck Anger of the Gods, and then Tron would have 4 main deck Relic of Progenitus. But none of those are big mana cards. They're just kind of things they did.
Right.
And then I look at Eldrazi Tron. They don't have Graveyard Hate in the main deck.
Hey, now, I believe there's a Scavenger Grounds.
There's one Scavenger Grounds.
Yeah,
okay,
so you watch your
it's
mouth.
there. That is not as fast as the other things I named.
No, Vengevine is usually going to be attacking before Pullium's going to be sacrificing deserts.
So Once Upon a Time here from Cain, it is the, I like it as a one-of because there can never be a drawback when you only play one.
Well, there can. It can be your 9th card.
It's less likely. You know, the first one's free.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to find a Merfolk Secret Keeper.
And that's always the kind of play if you're in Pullium's seat, if you don't know what's going on, you know something is afoot. Something's going on when your opponent is getting mill cards.
Something's happening. You're playing a 0/4 for 1 that mills for 4.
I don't know what's about to happen to me, but happen is a good way to describe it.
Something bad is something's going on. Your opponent goes turn 1 Tome Scour, myself go. And you're just like, oh dear.
Love it.
Oh dear.
Big fan of that play.
Like, I'm in trouble. Something's happening. It's kind of like the more nonsense your opponent's plays look, the more concerned you should be.
And 1 mana Lightning Helix. Love it. Hitting a Creeping Chill.
Okay. I don't know why people play Lava Spike when they could be doing this.
You're telling me. Creeping Chill. Once you've tasted it, it is.
That was
ooh,
nice.
You just can't go back.
2 mana Mind Stone from Will. Has 2 Tron pieces. I always like to say the quintessential Eldrazi Tron start is, you know, Urza's Tower into Eldrazi Temple.
It really is. You go, oh gosh, they didn't even have a turn 1 spell. They just have natural Tron. So lucky. And they play Matter Reshaper, and you go, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's like you see Tron piece, like, oh no, they're Tron. And then you see Eldrazi Temple, and you're like, oh, they're that one. That's okay.
Oh.
Stitcher Supplier. Looks like now 2 Grave Crawlers in the graveyard.
Not much else in the way of payoffs.
No, Cain would hope that there was a Vengevine in there, because then when he brings back a Gravecrawler, he'd get Vengevines out.
Right.
But
Prized Amalgam would also be quite good here.
Yeah, it looks like it's just making some 1/1s and 2/1s for now.
Yeah, Gravecrawler is a card that plays well in Vengevine decks and with Prized Amalgam, incidentally. But ultimately, you aren't playing all of these Graveyard Enablers to build Savannah Lions that can't block.
What is this block you speak of? What are we doing?
It's the person that math is for.
Ooh, that's a good sales pitch. And 3rd Tron piece, but not the one you needed. So it will be Hangerback Walker on 2.
Both players firing on all cylinders here, really.
I was going to say Walking Ballista, but I think that's Hangerback Walker.
It's Hangerback Walker.
Yeah, he has both in the deck.
1 Hangerback Walker. Perfect.
Hangerback Walker, a card that saw a lot of play when it first came out. It felt like it was mostly replaced by Walking Ballista.
Yeah, Ballista's just a bit better at interacting. In a lot of ways, if you don't have a bunch of ways to sacrifice your own creatures, Hangerback Walker is a kind of card where your opponent has to choose for it to be a good card.
Yeah. I think Hangerback Walker saw some play in Hardened Scales.
Right, and that's because you have Throne of Geth, Mirrodin's Core, Arcbound Ravager.
So, just the fair game here for Cain. It's going to be another Gravecrawler and a Gurmag Angler as he starts to attack.
Gurmag Angler's big. It's actually quite nice against Eldrazi specifically because it is as big as all of the things that Pullium is going to create. You can run into this tension where you get back a Vengevine and then Pullium plays a Reality Smasher.
Yeah, it's also a undercosted 5/5.
Correct.
Karn the Great Creator from Will. Looking over at our sideboard here. Mystic Forge and Snaring Bridge, Grafdigger's Cage, Liquid Metal Coating, Mycosynth Lattice, Pithing Needle, Relic of Progenitus, Sky Sovereign, Sorceress Spyglass, Wormcoil Engine, Termod's Crypt, Witchbane Orb. So almost all artifacts. He got Ensnaring Bridge, it looks like, with the first Karn.
Right, and the idea here is that then Pullium just gets to dictate the pace of the game. It's unlikely that Cain has any main deck ways of dealing with the card.
That third Urza's Mine from Will, nicer than the first two. That's... It's at 14. The Hangerback Walker is actually doing a great job here because Cain's going to have to attack into it, but can't be thrilled about that.
Yeah, this is something where you don't want it to soak up any damage because it's just going to get to pop and make more Thopters.
Right, I mean, I think even if it's a 3/3, Will still blocks the Angler, though, right? You don't really want to block a Gravecrawler or a Stitcher Supplier.
Right. For the most part, you don't want to be putting those cards back on the graveyard unless you just think Rianhard spending his mana that way in his second main phase doesn't matter.
And looks like he's sending the top 3 all at Karn, making sure that Karn is gone. And yeah, Will's just going to chump block here. 3 Thopters on the way. And Narcomoeba from Cain. And Gravecrawler. This is not how the deck normally plays, where you just cast all these from your hand.
Right, and this is the risk sometimes that you'll run, is these decks do have a fail rate, and your cards, you don't always know what they're going to do when you look at them in your opening hand.
I believe Cain's last 2 cards in his hand are both prized amalgams, so, 3 mana, they're going to, one at a time, come out.
Centaur Courser.
And Ensnaring Bridge from Will. 2 cards in hand.
Oh, wow, those Gravecrawlers are incredible.
Yeah, they can keep attacking. There's Expedition Map as well, so that actually can find that 3rd Tron piece for Will.
At this point, it honestly just feels kind of important that Map is letting him put a land card not in his hand.
Yeah. Yeah, on end step he can get one.
Well, I think there are a couple of lands hanging out in his hand, and he just wants to empty his hand of cardboard as quickly as possible. So we might just see him wait on the Expedition Map until it's a little more relevant.
Until he draws the Karn.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we noticed, for example, he's not going to pop Mind Stone here.
Right.
Will, thinking about taking 5 and trading down some Thopters.
That could also end up changing if he decides he wants to go grab that Scavenger Grounds we were talking about earlier.
Three blocks takes 3, goes to 11. Appears to be the setup. But yeah, those Gravecrawlers are just going to come back.
There's a point where Pullium wants to do what he can to stay above 9, because theoretically that's the level at which Rianhard can burn him out with the 3 Creeping Chills remaining in his deck. But otherwise, this Ensnaring Bridge is going to be a hard lock.
Yeah, I was actually looking to see if Crabvine does not play Bloodghast, so you can... It's just the Creeping Chills that seem to matter there. But yeah, full trade. From Cain, it is Hedron Crab, and looks like some Grave Crawlers coming back.
Ooh, I guess Cain could also theoretically start milling Pullium.
Ooh, I love it when those kind of lines.
Call that the transformational main board plan.
Bill does want more cards. It's going to be Mind Stone popped. At least one more land was found. If they're all lands, then he's got problems.
Oof.
Jazzy Temple. Are those all lands?
Is he dead? Not yet.
He doesn't have 5 cards in hand, but
right.
He'd be taking 7.
He really needs to find a Walking Ballista or something off the top, or one blocker off the top isn't going to do it, and he's not going to be able to go to less than 2 cards next turn.
Yeah, even if he finds Karn, the Great Creator, Cain can still attack. So yeah, Swing Will goes to 4, and maybe the medium beats from Cain Rianhard can take the day.
All right, Ballista right now. Believe that's all that does it.
That's wild.
All is dust buys a turn.
Is there a way he can empty his hand down to 1 card? If his hand is 3 lands, then no. If his hand was 2 lands, then maybe. And yeah, it is actually just too many lands in Will's hand. Can't do it.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
Cain Rianhard takes game 1 just off casting creatures at face value.
Yeah, and maybe at the last second you could Karn for Wormcoil Engine, but he didn't even have the card. He just had a bunch of lands.
Yeah, you're right. If he had the Karn, he could Karn for Wormcoil there, and maybe it would have been okay.
Right.
Do you think going back to where the game played out, he got Ensnaring Bridge, he might have been better served by getting Wormcoil Engine there?
It's possible. It's always tough to kind of make those calls because he knows that his Karn is basically dead on arrival.
Right.
So you need something, if you're planning on the deck to go several more turns for the game to last longer, which is going to be better. And
it's actually close.
May seem a little better or more difficult for Cain to overpower an Ensnaring Bridge than a Wormcoil. The bridge may not be as good on the short term, but if you're planning to play 5-6 more turns, you're never you can't outsmart an Ensnaring Bridge.
So we're looking at sideboard. For Will Pullium, he doesn't actually have too much sideboard in general. He's playing a Karn the Great Creator deck.
Right. So what I would expect to come in here, Relic of Progenitus is obviously quite nice. You probably leave 1 in the sideboard to grab with Karn, since Karn can loop them just in case. Okay. But I would want to see Grafdigger's Cage come in from the sideboard. And that's a little bit of an odd one, but the reason for that is the Crabvine deck is so fast, a lot of times you actually just need the Grafdigger's Cage on the first turn.
If you Karn for it, it's too late.
Right. And remember, even though this does theoretically have the tower map mine crack for power plant draws, this is not a traditional Tron deck. You are not reliably going to have 7 mana on the 3rd turn, and you can't lean into Karn as a base level plan against these decks all the time.
Not really. Yeah, a lot of times you're playing much more with the cards in your opening hand. You don't have Once Upon a Time. You don't have Ancient Stirrings.
Right, so having a Relic is fine because you want to have 1 in the sideboard since Karn can get them from exile. You keep activating it when you need to or have access to it. And the one Tormod's Crypt is a way that you can have Graveyard Hate on 4 mana, which it's not hard for Pullium to do that on turn 3, which isn't exciting, but it's serviceable.
Going to Cain's side. Fatal Push, Damping Sphere, Force Negation, Nature's Claim, Stain the Mind. There's not too much I like here.
Yeah, the things you might be looking at here are Damping Sphere and Nature's Claim. Damping Sphere turns off some of the Tron lands, but a lot of times Cain just kind of wants to go
Right.
You just want to attack, be linear, get the game over. But Nature's Claim does check Ensnaring Bridge.
Right, and because his deck wins in the attack step, he may be forced to bring in some number of Nature's Claim.
Exactly. You could also make a case for something like Force of Negation when you're on the draw, just because it's going to be difficult for you to win through something like a Chalice on one, and you want to have answers to it, and with Nature's Claim being your disenchant of choice, you can't ever really beat that card. But outside of that, I really don't expect Cain to be messing with the formula too much here.
So game night for StarCityGames.com. It's game night somewhere. We have our October token that is Bark Shadows. It is your 2/2 flying vampire dog. You can win these on tokens and sleeves by participating at tournaments at your local store. StarCityGames.com/game night. I like that. It's a good one.
Ooh. Are you doing anything for Halloween?
Definitely going to a Halloween party.
Are you dressing up?
I should. I haven't decided what I'm dressing up as yet.
You could dress up as SCG Creature Collection Bark Shadows.
What's your best Halloween costume?
Ever?
Ever.
That's a tough one. I really liked doing Sailor Jupiter a couple years ago.
Okay. Was it part of it? Was it an ensemble, or was it just you?
Just me.
Okay.
Well, Callie Anderson was Sailor Moon.
Okay.
And my friend Marie was Sailor Venus, I think. Mars, actually. I think it was Mars. Look, it's all fun. Sailor Moon's a nice show. It's very wholesome, you see.
I dressed up as a Rubik's Cube for Halloween one year.
That's puzzling.
Just like a giant box. We painted it, and then the arms and legs coming out of it.
I did the thing everyone in the 2000s did and had a black hair dye phase. And I dressed up as Silent Bob one year. Just wore a trench coat and had like a candy cigarette and a backwards ball cap and didn't say anything and just like nodded along to what people said for 4 hours. It was awful.
I could dye a hat. One of my hats black for Halloween. It's like the same thing, right?
Yeah, Matthias, it's the same thing. You nailed it.
Six cards for Will. He's picking which one goes to the bottom. Ooh, second Matter Shaper. I would. How about that one? Starts on Grafdigger's Cage.
All right, we see that coming in out of the sideboard. It's sort of a dynamic we talked about.
Yeah, Force of Negation actually in Cain's hand. I don't know that he had the blue card for it.
Not good without a blue card here. Yeah. Well, Cain saw Crummy Beatdown was good enough before.
Okay, Force of Negation will answer Chalice of the Void.
I like this. This is smart.
Swings in for 2. And back over to Will.
This is kind of the problem sometimes with synergy decks when you have to 2-for-1 yourself like that. You just don't actually have very many leftovers.
Yeah, boom, Matter Shaper.
Not usually a fan of this card, but it lines up pretty well against Gravecrawler.
Still kind of just waiting to see Cain's deck go. I know he's up a game. It's going to be hard with this Grafdigger's Cage in play.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's going to need to find a Nature's Claim and then a way to flip his own library into his graveyard, so it's kind of a tall order from this point. But it looks like Will only has 1 card left in his hand.
And as long as he can hide behind this Grafdigger's Cage for long enough, maybe that's fine.
There are a few Vengevines in hand.
Yeah, Cain, he has at least 1 more land, so maybe medium 4/3 hastes carries the day.
You know, there's a Gurmag Angler in hand. So if he has a fetch land, he could actually just cast the Angler here.
Matter Shaper reshapes into Thought-Knot Seer. That goes into Will's hand. Looks like fetch. I think we going to see Gurmag Angler. Yeah, 3 lands, 4 cards in graveyard. That adds up. 5/5, just too big for Thought-Knot Seer.
Yeah, and this is the strength of that card against this deck we kind of talked about it before. Rather than being big mana, it's medium plus mana.
Thought not see her. So we see 2 Vengevines and the 4th land, Verdant Catacombs. So Will's deck's doing what it wants to do, but you see kind of Cain's next play rolled up here. Now I guess the question will be, is this good enough?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't put Vengevine in your deck not to play it.
Right. Cain's going to attack for 9. And there's the swing. Will at 18. This is a 2-turn clock. He might have to trade.
Yeah, this is a spot where it doesn't feel good, but you're likely priced into blocking the Vengevine here. Unless he has a Reality Smasher coming down next turn, in which case he may just want to try and outclass the Vengevine.
Trade will happen. So 5 damage. Will goes to 13. Cain's going to get a new card. Looks like it was a prized amalgam.
So you have 2 prized amalgams in hand?
We're just gonna cast vanilla cards.
You know, you can double block Reality Smashers with those.
If you get to 6 mana, the second prized amalgam will bring back Vengevine.
No, it won't. There's a Grafdigger's Cage, Matthias. Stop being so unrealistic.
Okay, hold on. If you find a Nature's Claim and play 2 3-mana 3/3s.
The height of this order is increasing.
Yeah. So let me tell you, you can get a free, if you jump through all these hoops, a 4/3 haste is waiting at the end for you.
This list is dwarfing a CVS receipt.
Here's Glimpse the Unthinkable on himself. Gonna get a Narcomoeba into play.
You can still hit Creeping Chills with this.
That's true. And he did.
Hey, 10th card.
Will to 5. That's a pretty convenient 3 damage. Gurmag Angler, it's 5/5. I like how Cain might just 2-0 this on the back of some real honest magic.
Real big fish.
Oh yeah, Narcomoeba doesn't even come enter the battlefield, and will 3 more lands, and that is game, that is match for Cain Rianhard.
Yeah, and you know that's just kind of the strength of a lot of these decks that don't rely so much on the graveyard. Is when you have a